Don't wait, like everyone's waiting for this perfect time. Like if I just read 10 more books, I'll know how to do that. No, do it fucking now. If you're just staying complacent and not doing the shit, you're gonna have regret, you're letting people down, you're letting yourself down. You always think it's gonna be worse than it is. It's always better. A friend of mine was like, hey, I'm gonna leave this 7-figure job and go here, but he hemmed and hawed about it for 7 months, and I was like, dude, let's look at the last 42 years of your life. Have you ever ended up in a box on the street? He's like, no. I was like, you've been fucking successful. Of course you're gonna be successful. And if it fails, you can go back to this, and you have all these other friends that are gonna help you. Worst case scenario is just envision it's 10 times worse in your head. You'll be fine. Like, it's never that much of a risk. Now, I think not taking risks is the bigger risk.
Welcome to the Fitness CEO Podcast.
Hey friends, welcome back to another amazing episode of the Fitness CEO Podcast. And today I have an awesome friend and an awesome guest for you. He is the OG, the inventor of group training in his own words. Started the Renegade Fitness Podcast. He's a contributor for Men's Health, Men's Fitness, CBS, ESPN, the list goes on, and he is a health and fitness expert going to teach about mindset and how to be the best version of you. So without further ado, I want to welcome my buddy, Jay Ferruggia, to the show. My man, Jay Ferruggia, welcome to the show, buddy.
Thanks for having me, brother.
All right, well, dude, man, you are a legend in our space. I feel like you are a pioneer of functional fitness and all that. So I just want to kind of start with the backstory. How and why did you get involved with training?
So I grew up, every Saturday morning I would watch cartoons and I would watch professional wrestling. And first as a kid I would see the cartoons. In 1982 I started watching pro wrestling, and I'd see these larger than life figures, Hulk Hogan, the Ultimate Warrior, Hercules Hernandez, I mean, you name it, British Bulldogs. And I was like, man, I want to be like that. Now I'm just a fat kid. I'm fat, I'm unathletic, I'm insecure, I'm shy, I'm socially awkward, I'm the last one picked on the kickball team or whatever. I was not that great. So I was like, I want to be like one of those larger than life superhero type guys one day. And so I started getting into weight training. My dad started getting into weight training. I guess he was like in his 40s or whatever. In 1986, I was 12. So I messed around a little bit, 87 a little bit. It was kind of on and off. And then in 1988, my cousin Christine, who lived down the street from me, she started dating a professional wrestler. His name was Eric Guida. He was not in WWE, WWF at the time, but he was in some smaller federation. But still, he was there all the time. I would see him 52 weeks a year. And he's 6'4", 260. So I'm actually seeing one of these guys in person all the time. Oh, yeah. And so he kind of, writes me a program, this and that. And it wasn't a good beginner program. It was like 7 days a week, 2-hour body part split. I was like, dude, I can't move and I haven't gained an ounce in a year, And I have shitty hard gainer genetics. Like I was fat, and then I was always skinny fat.
And you're like 15 at the time.
Yeah, yep.
Ish.
13. Okay. So then I go into high school and train all through high school. So I graduated high school, same height I am now, at 147 pounds. And I've been training the whole time.
Oh, snap.
And eating aggressively. So those are my genetics. And so then when I get into college, in retrospect, I wish I figured out how to train because I could have been a better athlete. Like I was a pretty good basketball player. I got cut from the football team because I was just so skinny and weak. And, if someone would hit me, I would just fly across the room, So I wish I could have used what I know now for athletics. I could have been so much better. And it didn't really help my confidence that much, I guess, because I didn't make any progress through high school. And when I got to college, I was like, geez, I got to figure this out. So I immersed myself in like every book I could read, all this kind of stuff. And so I started making some progress in college. Then I interned in the weight room.
What did you study in school?
So I went to school, which is really weird. I went to school for communications. Now, I was a mush mouth. I didn't even speak. I was so insecure. I was like, what was I thinking? But I was like, all right, I either want to host SportsCenter or like a talk show or something, which is weird because, 10 years ago, we started the podcast, and I'd be the last person to ever do that. Or I wanted to direct films, which actually that was easier because I didn't have to talk. So like I got into like the film school there, and I made a film that actually got submitted to like a national film festival and stuff like that.
Oh shit.
But eventually I got obsessed with this kind of stuff, So then what happened was I got tuberculosis, which is fucking crazy. Like I never heard of anyone get that since like Doc Holliday or something, right? So I was home on Christmas break from school, and I'm in the gym, and every day I'm like, dude, I can't breathe. Like I'll do a set of 3, I can't breathe. But I just kept plowing through it, whatever, And then I was doing a workout one day. I was like, bro, I feel like I'm gonna die. So I go to my doctor. I call my doctor. They're like, yeah, we're super booked. Just get on. Those are the days where you still just get a prescription for anything. All the time. Yeah, so I'm just popping. What were those things called? Like Z-Packs. Yeah. I'm just eating those like candy. And I'm like, dude, I feel terrible. And they're like, all right, we'll come in a few days. We have an opening. I'm like, all right. I'm like about to die. And they go, yo, you got to go to the heart and lung specialist immediately. So I drive 10 minutes there. My mom comes, meets me over there. The guy's like, yo, you got to get in an ambulance immediately. We got to go to Overlook. And I go, what's going on? He's like, your lungs are almost filled with fluid. You're going to drown and die if you don't get to the hospital. I was like, Jesus Christ. So I run over to the hospital. They have to have me propped up on all this medicine to keep me like from losing my mind. And they drill, like it's like a spike in my back. It feels like a railroad spike. Like he's hammering into my back, but I have to be upright. So he drains the thing like bigger than this, like about this size, but wider, like basically like a bottle of vodka or something.
Yeah.
And it's brown, it looks like a bottle of scotch, out of me. And I'm like delirious from the pain. And they're like, you gotta be on 3 months of bed rest, you gotta take all these pills, you're gonna turn your pee fire engine red, your hair is gonna fall out. It was insane. And so anyway, I go home, I'm on bed rest, and during that time, I immersed myself into all like the fitness kind of stuff, like anything you could order from the back of a magazine I would get. I got every book from like 1906 up that you couldn't get, and just started studying all that, got all my first certification, started training people that summer, and I have no idea how, because I knew nothing about business, but by the end of that summer, I'm on pace to make 6 figures that year. I was like, this is insane. How could this even be? I don't even know that much about training. I certainly don't know anything about business. But I was just like, if I'm gonna do this, I wanna do it the way I like. So I started training people in 94. And I never liked doing, and like I was always rebellious. That's why I named my company Renegade. Like I was always super rebellious. Way before white people listened to hip hop, I was listening to hip hop. My freshman year of high school was 1988, which was It Takes a Nation of Millions by Public Enemy came out. And so that was kind of like my thing, was like my theme song was like, this is the Public Enemy, well, no, there's Sean. This is the Public Enemy logo. One of the reasons I have this is it represents my mindset of rebelliousness. My favorite song is called Rebel Without a Pause. So, and like Fight the Power is their other biggest song. So it was like, that's always, my mom was at Woodstock and like fighting the power and shit. So like all this shit, but like, I had no friends. I was just like this rebel, like fighting the power. I had like 3 friends, and I was the only white kid who listened to hip hop. I had my pants hanging down off my ass. I had a high top fade, like Kid from Kid and Play.
Oh, snap.
And but I just was so insecure and like so like I had all these issues and everything. But so training was like trying to build up, like get this sleeves of tattoos and gain like 80 pounds. Like I went from 147 to 230 and walked around like that. But really, like
a lot of 147 to 230.
Dude, I was just eating everything in sight.
Over how long?
It was a long time.
Okay.
But like my post-workout meal was like a meat lover's pizza, 64-ounce Gatorade. Like I was on a seafood diet, so I wasn't ripped at 230.
Like seafood, you're gonna eat it.
Yeah. I was big though, and I was strong. But like when I look back at those pictures, I was like fat and terrible. But anyway, so yeah, that was the thing. Like so I'm home during that time with I was about to say COVID.
PTSD, man.
Yeah, I know. So with tuberculosis, and so again, I started training people. And when I say I was doing things differently, like I was getting those old books and old magazines and stuff that you could order, and like, well, we're not gonna go like do public gym weird stuff. Like we're just, and people are like, what are you even talking about? It was hard to sell what I even did, but then eventually, I saved up every dime from training people, got a little small space like this, and we're just cranking NWA and Public Enemy and stuff, and people are like, yo, you shouldn't listen to that music. Like people have been telling me to stop listening to hip hop for like 30 something years, And then I remember even my dad was like, maybe you should just train golfers or something. I was like, no, I'm in an underground gym and we're playing hip hop and we're doing, like, I would throw people off. So it was so different because like you'd walk in, there was signs on there was a sign of the rules, like no pussies, no this, no that, and the other thing. And like all that existed was you could do, and I take credit for inventing group training.
I know that.
Because all there was personal one-on-one training.
Yep.
Or you'd go to like Jane Fonda stuff or something, right? So then I'm training adults in the morning, and then I was like, man, I love sports and athletics. I want to train. So Mike Schwab, to this day, is a good friend of mine, just texted me the other day, my birthday, and Mike's like 40 something now. He was 12 years old. My dad and his dad were friends. we ran into them one day. They were my dad, was telling them what I do. And Stanley, his dad, was like, oh, well, Mike's a really good wrestler and football player. You should train him. And I was like, yeah, awesome. So I started training Mike. He starts getting great results. He's winning wrestling matches. He ended up breaking the school rushing record. So he sends in Chris, who actually is a good friend of mine still to this day as well. Chris went on to become the captain of the Columbia football team. So I trained both of them all through high school, all through college. They refer me a bunch of people. They're like, we want to train together. So I trained Mike, Chris, this kid named Joey Vespucci. That was my first small group thing.
And all like athletic training, performance training.
Yeah. And again, our space was 1,000 square feet. It was like this rectangular room just kind of compressed into a square. Yep. We was cranking music. Just everything was politically correct and offensive, and like I would kick people out left and right. It was just like craziness.
Like the soup Nazi from like
exactly.
Seinfeld,
Yeah. You didn't train hard. Yeah. Like my friend Andrew to this day tells a story about when he came in for his first like tryout. Like we didn't sell you. You had to sell us. Like you came in, and I was in the middle. Like I would train with one of the groups of the guys, like the strongest, biggest, most hardcore guys. I would train with them. And Andrew comes in. He's standing at the front desk for a little while. And I finally go over, I was like, yeah, what are you doing? What's up? He goes, oh, I want to do train here, Mike here. I go, I don't give a fuck. Sign this fucking thing, jump into the workout. If you make it, you're in. If you're not, you're out of here. And that was like what we did. And then my friend Joey Styles, his real name is Joey Scalable, we call him Joey Styles. He trained with me throughout his high school, college, and professional baseball career. And then he came to work for me, an intern, because he just loved being there. It was like the third place, like everyone would hang out. You train for an hour, but you get there an hour before. Mm-hmm. You'd hang out 2 hours after. The new guys would hate, the old guys would haze the new guys. It was like a fraternity, Yeah. If anyone did some shit, they would be like kicking them out. I'm like, yeah, if you don't think they should be here, kick them out. They're like, yeah, but you're taking money out of my pocket. I'm like, I don't give a fuck. Like, get them the fuck out of here if you're not contributing to the environment, But one time, Joey Styles checked his phone during a workout. I said, Joe, you fucking should know better. And I launched it outside. Like, we didn't fuck around. But that's how I even have a career to this day. Like, nobody would have known my name if I was just doing what everyone else was doing, right? Yeah. So this place opened up down the street, and they had like $50 million in backing, huge space. And they go, how is that maniac dude in the basement taking all of our guys? How does he have all the best athletes from every single school around? And it was just the environment we created. Like I said, it was a third space. It was so unique. It was the music. It was everything that went into it. It was like almost like a cult. Yeah, totally. But all of our guys were setting records. They were crushing, and I never spent a dime on advertising. Everything was word of mouth referral, and I was there training people 12 hours a day for 15 years. We were fucking packed, dude.
For 15 years?
For 15 years. Dude, the bus would drop the kids off at 2. So I had a little break during the middle of the day. Yep. And then the bus would drop kids off at 2:45, and we would have groups. That group of 3 with Joey, Mike, and Chris expanded to groups of 6, groups of 12, or whatever. And we would have 70-something kids coming in. Like, it was just crazy. And talking about like doing everything yourself. Like, I was doing everything for many years. I was just training everybody, but then I hired people and had guys come intern with me.
Let me interject here, Jay. Yeah. So one of the things that we teach our franchise partners is the culture, the environment, the atmosphere is everything, because that's going to be the separator in terms of like referrals, because referrals needs to be your biggest engine. So, organically, you just freaking created this massive culture, a very unique culture. So was that intentional? Did that just kind of come because of the personality? What did that look like?
A little bit of both, yeah. But it's just like, I want to do things my way. This is who I am. I want it to be super different, not mainstream. So, if I go into a gym to this day and they pay no attention to the music, I will lose my mind. Like, how do you not know that's one of the most important things? Like, you got to pay attention to the music. You got to pay attention to creating something unique. It's got to be the third place. Everyone's got to know everyone's name. Yeah. And I make sure everyone else knows each other too. I want everyone, even nowadays with my groups, even though it's online, we meet up, like, I want everyone to know each other. I want everyone to connect with each other. Know things about each other, support each other.
Was that factory installed? Because I feel like for a lot of people, at least I coach, that culture, that element, and even for me, I'm a relationship guy, so that kind of was factory installed. But when I first started my first gym, I was so focused on the technical training, I lost sight of like that relationship, the community, the third place, like you meeting everyone else. So where did that come from?
Yeah, a little of both. I obviously worked on it. Like, nowadays, my skill set there has required a lot of work. But back then, it was a little of both, and I think it was my upbringing maybe not getting the love that I wanted at home or whatever, and growing up around fighting and addiction and stuff like that. And then never being super popular in school, never having a lot of friends, never being the guy that people are inviting me to the party or people are coming to my house. I was like, okay, now I can create this for everybody else, for these high school kids, these college kids, when they went on to become pros. Like, I want you to feel that community that I never had. And now, nowadays at 49, you ask anybody, like, that's what I do better than anyone else, is like creating community and bringing people together. So that was like my first foray into it. And when I guess it was just from, which a lot of us do, right? Like, something you lacked, you want to, give and be a part of and experience. And so that was the culture we created. We had record boards, so everyone was always competing, and we would just talk shit, and like we would just make something. Like, if you came in, I'd be like, Bryce, fucking Mike just crushed your record and he said you're a pussy. And maybe Mike didn't even beat the record. Yeah. And what I would make sure we do too is, if you had a game that weekend, I would make sure that we got as many of the people as we could to go to Bryce's game, to go to whoever's game. Like, let's all go, let's be part of a team. Yeah. So we're all Team Renegade supporting each other. So you go on to college, you play at USC, whatever, we're watching you because we know you're coming back over the summer for 3 months. So like the family, like, dude, that was the early 90s to the mid, when did I move to Cali? 2011. Mm-hmm. So all those years to this day, all those people still tell me nothing's ever been the same. Training's never been the same. I've never gone to a gym that's the same. I've never been part of a family and a unit and a community like that, which still, touches me to this day. Yeah. And again, on my birthday, just a week or so ago, to have all those guys still texting me 30 years later, they're adults, they're in their 40s, they're running successful businesses. And I'm like, you training? You eating right? You good? All right, if you're in LA, come by, we're at training. We're not skipping leg day, shit like that. Yeah. So
let me ask you this, Jay, like, looking back, I mean, I'm curious where their confidence came from, right? Because you talked about like being the skinny kid, skinny fat kid, et cetera. But, all of a sudden you transform, build this freaking rock solid community, have this passion. Outside eyes looking in, I mean, that takes confidence to be able to put together. Like, where did that come from? How was that derived?
Yeah, so it's funny because I had zero confidence, but I was able to do all those things in the gym, but only in the gym. In that 1,000 square foot that I owned, I controlled the music, I controlled the environment, I controlled who came in, I controlled the energy, had all the confidence in the world. But if we go out to dinner and there's more than 6 people, and certainly 6 people that I don't know, I'm shut down.
Really?
I'm in my shell, I'm not talking, I'm insecure, I'm judging myself. That's how I always was. I mean, I remember 2007, there was something called the Big Seminar. It was in Boston at CJ Murphy's place. And so it was me, Alan Cosgrove, who's one of the best speakers and presenters in fitness, so that's a tough act to follow, Dave Tate, Jim Wendler, and we were all speaking, and I'd always told myself, like, fuck, I can't do that. I could yell at all the guys in here, rally the troops, rile everyone up, but there's no way I'm gonna be public speaking anywhere ever. Like, I'll be terrible at it. And they convinced me to do it. And again, whatever you say and believe, you bring to fruition, right? So I go up there, I'm literally the worst speaker in the history of public speaking. I'm fumbling over my words, I'm like pissing my pants. Like, it was so bad, it was atrocious. And so I said, I said it, I knew I couldn't do this, so I don't speak again for somewhere between 3 and 5 years. I have to look at the timeline, but I got, I was becoming good friends with Bedros, and I was immersing myself in personal development and overcoming all that insecurity and those false narratives and self-limiting beliefs. So I first of all, I moved across the country to reinvent myself, because I heard a quote from Henry Rollins talking about, like, you can't reinvent yourself where you are, environment triggers behaviors, all those type of things. So I was like, let me just get the fuck as far out of here as I can, give myself a chance to reinvent myself. And once I got here, that was my mission. Like, I didn't read any business books, I didn't read any training books, it was nothing. It was like, let me just work on this stuff, like the How to Win Friends and Influence People, read every book in that genre. I signed up for improv at Second City, and that was a game changer. Like, I wish I did that in high school. I think it should be required for high school and college. Yeah, I think everyone should do it.
Why? What were your biggest takeaways?
All right, so a few things about improv is, first of all, it teaches you to be fully present. And, like Kanye says, my presence is a present, kiss my ass. Like, if you're fully present, and you're great at that, you're memorable. You don't have to say anything. Like, someone could hang out with you because you're so good at that and be like, yo, I just hung out with Bryce. We had the fucking best time. He's great. And someone might say, oh, what did Bryce say? oh, I don't know, nothing. He just asked me questions, but you were fully fucking present, right? So I pride myself on being really good at that too. People tell me that I'm really present, and that's the thing in improv. Like if you and I step out on stage, we get a suggestion from the audience, and I say, okay, give us a location. He says, you're at Dunkin' Donuts. I can't start making shit up. I gotta hear what you say. If you're like, oh, I'm gonna get a latte, I gotta start talking about your latte. I can't just go off on my own thing. So you gotta be so fully fucking present. So that's number one. Teaches you listening skills. There's plenty of communications classes, speaking classes. There's no listening skills. Listening is the ultimate superpower. Again, if you know in that hypothetical I just gave, the reason someone thought you were charismatic or great or fun to be around because you listened so well, right? So like we don't have listening classes, so you have to listen, because if you say, hey, I'm gonna get the pumpkin spice latte, and I'll be like, oh shit, yeah, it's almost Halloween. I didn't even know it was back. And like, I gotta just play off whatever you said, right? So it teaches you listening, and then you gotta make a decision. Well, that's like the Hollywood term is make a decision, but it's like, he gives us our suggestion, lights are up, so I have to make a decision immediately. Am I the straight guy? Am I the funny guy? Do I have an accent? Whatever. How am I gonna respond to you? Am I gonna instigate you? Whatever. You have to make that decision. And of course, as you know, to be successful in life, like, you gotta make decisions, right? You gotta take action, you gotta be decisive. Yeah, exactly. So it teaches you 3 essential life skills, I think better than anything else. And then of course, your public speaking, which is everyone's number one fear. Like you're up there, you're speaking, and you have no script, which makes it even harder, right? And of course, you're gonna be funny, which, Eddie Murphy said the universal sign of safety and connection is laughter. So if you can make people laugh, you can laugh together. If you're working in groups, if you own a gym, like anytime you can tell jokes and funny stories and get people to laugh, it just breaks down the walls.
Well, for you, how did that come off? Because when I think of you, I don't necessarily think of funny. I think of very engaging, charismatic, etc. So was that a skill that you had to like craft? I'm just curious of the humor aspect.
Yeah, in my household, even though there was a lot of addiction and weird stuff going on, my grandfather, who was an alcoholic, he's Scottish, so anything said with a Scottish accent's funny, but he was hilarious, like the quickest wit ever, and my mom is like that too. Now, my mom and I have battled for years, and we've had a strained relationship. She grew up in Scotland, then came here, but my mom is hilarious. And so I always kind of like, I wanted to be part of that. And I grew up, I would sneak and stay up late to watch David Letterman, and on Saturday nights watch stuff. But I just wasn't confident enough, I wasn't present enough. And those 2 things you have to have a good sense of humor and to be able to deliver a joke. You also have to be, not that I'm saying I'm super intelligent, but you have to be intelligent to be funny.
Totally.
And you have to, but you really have to be present. Because I'll be with people, and I'm like, oh my God, you just missed that punchline, you just missed that joke, because you're not fucking present. But my friend Mike DeSanti is amazingly fun. He'll never miss a joke because he's fully present. It's like you never met someone who's more present. So you have to be super present. And so I think it was there from my mom and my grandfather, and I always wanted to do it. I just never could do it, and I never even tried to hone the skills. So like, I'm gonna tell a joke and it's gonna be terrible. So like, being in that kind of safe space where there's 12 or 20 people and we're all just trying something as novices and getting up there. And a good improv teacher like my friend Rich will tell you, don't try to be funny. Just go up there, listen to what Bryce says, respond to it naturally. If you try to be funny, the scene falls apart.
Really?
Yeah, which is weird, right? It's counterintuitive, yeah. But then as you get better, and now I'm present, I don't know that there's an audience, I'm just listening to what you say, then eventually you're able to say funny stuff. So I did the improv, which was, again, a game changer. Now I'll do improv at all my events. I've had 200 members of the Los Angeles Dodgers up doing improv games. Like, whenever someone brings me in to speak, I'll do improv stuff. I've had Bedros come to improv classes. Even at Sean Stevenson's birthday last year, he asked me, do you know anyone who can come in and do the improv that you do? So I brought Rich in, and we were all doing improv at his birthday. I just think it's so much fun. Like everybody loves doing it. And then I took 2 stand-up classes. Do you know Roger Love? He's like the world's greatest vocal coach. I hired Roger Love. I went to his thing. And then during all that time, I'm just pushing myself all the time. I'm pushing myself all the time to meet everybody, to connect. Never once in line at Whole Foods am I doing this. I'm looking at your name thing. I'm like, hey, Bryce, how's your day going? Cool, yeah. And then I might say, oh, no, I like your shoes, man. I'm a sneakerhead. Like every opportunity I had. And I didn't do that for 36 years prior.
Really?
Did not do it, no. I would engage everybody all the time, nonstop, practicing from the second I woke up to the second I went to bed. Like, I'd get in the elevator. You know, most people in the elevator are just staring at the thing.
Awkward as hell.
I'd be like, hey man, what's going on? How's your day going? Whatever. Every single opportunity, to the point where I would come home and I would say to my wife, Jen, I'd be like, I just met this great guy, Jay, on the beach. Jay's now one of my best friends. I randomly just met him on the beach. And he tells the story hilariously. He thought like I was gay and hitting on him and whatnot. But like, and then my other friend John Hennigan, who's a WWE champion and stuff, I met him on the beach. Just like, I can't let you go to the beach without me. Just pick up guys every day. But I was so intentional about it.
And what was your desired outcome there? Was it just to be a better conversationalist, but increase your
Yeah,
network?
I kind of just knew like it's an essential life skill.
Yep.
I always saw people who were good at it. I was like, man, that'd be so awesome to be like that, to be like that guy who connects everybody, everyone wants a beer on, makes everyone feel good. I'm not that person. I could never be that person, right? But then I was like, what am I talking about? What is that weird false narrative, like, you know, self-limiting belief? Of course you can. Like, nobody has that thought about fitness. Like, you go to the gym and you're like, all right, I got to lose 30 pounds. You don't think, I'm not going to lose 30 pounds. You think you're going to lose 30 pounds. Right. Or you don't think, I can only squat 95 today. I'm going to squat 95 forever. You don't start a business going, okay, I'm making $100 a month. That's all I can ever make. Like,
right.
But for some reason, a lot of people think that about your confidence levels or your ability to socialize with people, right? And I was one of those people. Or you just think, oh, I guess eventually I'll evolve and get better at it, which no, you fucking won't. You're not wine. So I had to be intentional about it. And I was like, let me see if I could do this. And then it became such a high because I took it upon myself. I was like, all right, nobody's good at this. Everybody's insecure and struggles in some way. I want to now be the light in their day. Like if I get in the elevator and I could read on your body language, you're stressed out. Everyone likes to engage with human beings. Like that's how we are. Like in isolation, we're terrible. Yeah. So if I could see you're stressed out and I comment on your shoes or your shirt, just talk to you for a minute and I give you my full presence, like again, you feel better. So I made your day a little bit better in some way. So it's not 100% altruistic, like it helps you feel better. But if you're giving all day and giving your time, your focus, your attention, and my schedule was full with like coffee every day with somebody, dinner every day with somebody. Anyone I meet in the streets, like if I took out my phone, I'll kind of tell you as I'm talking to illustrate this. So I got to LA. I knew one person. For whatever reason, I put everyone's LA. Yeah. Oh fuck. So this is literally everybody I know, and I swear to God, I knew one person when I got there.
So for our audience here, like his phone, literally, I'm seeing probably 100, 150 contacts with their first or last name and then LA. So just indicating the fact all these like people where hundreds, he met in LA.
Yeah. It's crazy. We just passed Stone Cold. Oh, there's Stone Cold. That's always a high.
Stone Cold Steve Austin?
Yeah. Yeah.
So let me ask you this. I was just on your show, and you asked me an incredibly strong question about I'm a recovering alcoholic, addict, and the first 12 months of my journey was so challenging. And then once I got through that hump, it just became exponentially easier. In your case, if this wasn't factory installed, but you decided, okay, for the first 36 years, this wasn't my chapter, but I'm going to start being intentional about it. How long did it take you before it became, in your own words, like electric?
It was hard at first. When we first got to LA, it was just like, all right, this is work. I'm putting in work. I'm trying to do this. And again, it was something that was missing from childhood, where I never had all the friends, and I never had all, like I would watch, I don't know, Friends or 90210, like, I wish I had all those friends that would come to my house, but no one wants to come to my house, you know what I mean? So selfishly, I was like, all right, I'm living out my childhood. Now I get to have a bunch of friends around and stuff like that. So again, it was a lot of work at the beginning. I was always kind of awkward and uncomfortable to approach you, and like, this is so weird. But dude, it was kind of fast. Like it just kind of snowballed. I was like, man, that feels so good to connect with somebody. And then I would just keep doing it. And before I knew it, like I just had this, like I mentioned my friend to you, Becky Lynch, on your show. And she became like the biggest female superstar in wrestling history. I just randomly met her at the gym one day. We hit it off, started talking. And then I had her on the podcast, and now she's one of my closest friends. Stone Cold, see him there? Like I just met him on the street. Like Bedros, just like we met at Craig's thing. I could have just said what's up and moved on. But like those relationships change your fucking life, Like having B as my friend changed my life. Like having Rebecca as my friend changes my life. Having Jay, who I told you about, Jay was on the beach. I'm sitting on the beach, I'm reading. And I probably like yourself, I see someone reading a book and was like, what are they reading? Because I'm into reading, So I'm looking at what he's reading. And this group of like 5 like early, probably college kids, get up, they leave shit littered all over the beach. And he springs up, he starts yelling at them and stuff, and then he cleans up what they leave. And I'm like, who is this great defender of Mother Nature? We must be friends. So I walk over there, and I was a lot bigger at the time. I was probably like 20 times bigger, and tattooed up and everything. And Jay's like, oh no, who's this guy coming to hit on me? And I was like, bro, that was amazing. We should be best friends. And we just started talking, and literally that was like 12, 13 years ago, he's one of my best friends. Like him and Bedros and I have gone to concerts together and everything. So I just kept, and that's really uncomfortable and awkward and weird to do for another guy to approach a guy. But I do it all the time. And at the beginning, it was uncomfortable. They'll be like, Bryce, yeah, let's hang out. What's your number? And they're like, this is weird. But I just started, I got to the point where it was not weird or uncomfortable anymore. It's just like, that's who I am, that's what I do, you know?
And how would you say that affected your business, acumen and business success of the last 15 plus, 20
Oh my God,
years?
dude. Like, I think everything in life is like how you do life is largely impacted by who you do life with, right? And just how you think, how you operate, how you treat people. I feel like you're like this too. I'm always learning from everybody.
Yes.
But of course, people are at a higher level, you're going to learn even more from. Sometimes you're learning what not to do, right? Like if I'm in a conversation with somebody and they're like this, or they're like, doing weird twitchy shit, I'm like, oh God, I'm going to make sure I don't do any of that stuff,
Yeah.
But when you're with high level people like B or somebody, like you're always learning. Like last night we had a great dinner, and it's not that you're even talking about personal growth so much, it's just like, oh, that's cool how he overcame that thing, or like, oh, he's different than he was last time, or like Craig Ballantyne, super open about himself being like socially awkward and stuff. So to see Craig be more comfortable in his own skin and push himself to like I know he wants to be in bed at 6, but he's out till 7. Oh, that's pretty cool. Okay. Or like the way they treat the waiter or something. Like you're always just learning being around people, right? How they handle adversity, whatever. So the relationships you have just absolutely change your life like exponentially. And you might not do anything on paper differently in business, but somehow you just end up making more money, you're more focused, you're more productive. And again, back to what you were talking about accountability, even if it's not like official paid accountability, like you haven't hired your friends, like your friends are fucking elevating.
Yeah.
You don't want to be the one that's down here, You get together every month or whatever, you want to be like, yeah, I'm doing cool shit too, I'm keeping up with everybody, or I'm setting the bar, whatever it is,
Dude, man, this fires me up. I'm a relationship guy, I'm in a relationship business, and this is what we teach our franchise partners, we teach our coaches. We were talking offline, like one of our initial curriculum books for new coaches who are 21, 25 years old is how to win friends and influence people, how to connect with people,
it's gotta be.
That's what we do.
Yeah.
I want to change gears a little bit. You talked about reading and learning, and leaders are learners. You've become a massive contributor, I guess, from an early age, starting in the fitness game, from Men's Health and Men's Fitness and ESPN and CBS. So how did that all come to fruition? And I guess what were the big learning lessons throughout that journey?
So we were having a ton of success in the gym, and then who reached out to me? I should know. One of the magazines reached out to me, and then I started.
Proactively to you.
Yeah. So I started writing for Men's Fitness, and then there was no such word as blog. We didn't even know how to start a website. It was called Website Wizard, and it was like $9.95 a month. I started my own website, started writing stuff, and that was actually Cosgrove who suggested that. He was like, anytime we talked, I was saying things to him that he had never heard before. He's like, that's unique. That's like a unique thought or insight or something that no one's doing. You should write about that online. I was like, really? Who's going to read it? Like my mom? I don't know. And so I just started doing it, and it's kind of started taking off. And then Dave Tate, like one of the biggest sites back then was Elite FTS. And so it was Elite FTS and T-Nation, T-Mag, Testosterone, whatever it's called at the time. So Dave asked me to be on the Q&A staff, which was huge. It was a huge honor at that point. There was only a few guys, they were big name guys. So I was on there. Following started growing, magazines. Then I got in every magazine. Then I proactively started approaching other magazines. And then Cosgrove was stepping down he used to write the Hard Gainer column. And he goes, I think Jay should write it, which is, to this day, I'm still indebted to him. He's still a super close friend of mine. We've known each other since '96. And so I took over the Hard Gainer column for like 10 years. And again, that speaks to friendships, right? Like, nobody's I like it sometimes when I see a self-made tattoo, but I'm like, nobody's fucking self-made. You get everywhere from the people you know, right? So Cosgrove gave me that opportunity, and then I eventually became the chief training advisor for the magazine and wrote for every other magazine. And when Arnold was leaving politics and getting back into fitness, He reached out to 5 people to be one of the advisors, and I was one of them he reached out to. So I've been an advisor, and it was cool because I lived down the street from his office, so we would go down there. We'd get invited to all the movie premiere parties and stuff like that. And
how did that connection get made?
Oh God, I can't even remember. I know so many people. Maybe through Adam Bornstein. I think through Adam Bornstein. You know Adam?
No.
Okay, so Adam was like an editor at Men's Health for a lot of time. He was the behind the scenes guy that ran Tim Ferriss's business for a long time. He's been the big name behind a lot of brands that you would know, a lot of people that you would know. Now he basically runs Arnold's business. So I think it was through Adam. And then, I mean, talk about, people skills and stuff like that. Learning from Arnold, just being around him a short time at like movie premieres and stuff, the way he treated people and the way he made them feel special. That was super cool to see, and I learned lessons from him. Like just the way he talked to my wife and made my wife feel, and he'd only met my wife twice, and he remembered something that he told her 6 months ago. I was like, that's insane. Like that's why he's successful, and to see him navigate around, like I remember him going up to Aziz Ansari, and he didn't fucking know who Aziz was, but Daniel, his assistant, who's a friend of mine, was like, all right, Aziz, you were tweeting with Aziz, like Daniel was doing it the other day. And Aziz has a new movie coming up. So he goes, Aziz, great to see you, buddy. Good luck on the new movie, this and that. And he's like, he has no fucking idea who he is. But it's like, he's so good at it. That's why he's successful. It's amazing. So that was just, and I was always proactive. I was like, okay, I'm in men's fitness. How do I get in men's health? How do I get here? How do I get there? And just trying to keep moving, keep doing whatever I could, keep pushing myself.
Where does that come from? Because I want to take a step back. I mean, we talked about, your background, being the OG of personal training space, building, culture and community, self-development, and has it had all the success. But where does that come from?
That I would say that there's a lot of negative, I would say I don't have many gifts, I don't have many skills, but the one thing in my DNA is that hustle, that East Coast hustle. That's why I have this tattooed on me.
Relentless.
Yeah. And one of my theme songs is New York State of Mind by Nas, because I grew up in the Northeast where everybody fucking hustles their face off.
In Jersey.
Yeah. You have to. That's just a way of life. It's like we wear it as a badge of honor. And my dad, it didn't make for the greatest life for us, but my dad would work 24/7. He would come home middle of the night. We wouldn't see him. Him and my mom would fight. My mom would, get fucking drink, and it was a bad scene. But that work ethic was always instilled in me. That's just in my DNA. And you just had to, it was just expected. You're just working all the time.
Now, do you think you're working towards something? Do you think you're working, running away from something?
Both, yeah. And if no matter what I did, it was never good enough. So there's always,
For you or for your parents or?
For my dad.
Okay.
If I said, hey, I'm in the next presidential election, and I think I might win the Democratic vote or whatever, be like, yeah, but did you win by a landslide? It's never enough, So you're running from that. I don't know. It's, we can get into the psychology of it, whatever. But it was instilled in me early, and I have no regrets about that, because who knows, maybe I would just, work at 7-Eleven and be fine with life, or like you said, maybe just be an addict somewhere. Who fucking knows? But I had that work ethic instilled in me, so I'm never gonna stop. I'll have downs, I'll have hard times, but I will always be relentless. I always push myself. That I do. I am grateful for the kind of upbringing that we had.
Oh yeah, man.
Anyone who has had no struggles is kind of yeah.
All right, I want to transition here a little bit, not only from the business journey, but we'll talk about that as well. But our audience, they're in transition. They're, typically speaking, they've been successful to some level, but they want something more. They realize from a passion-based business, and this is the reason that they're following along the show, learning, more things, but also too, living a healthy and fit lifestyle is super important. Dude, you just turned 49 last week. I mean, you're freaking shredded. So I want to talk a little bit about that. What does health and fitness mean to your life? And what are some of the tips and strategies that you use to stay super fit, as you navigate your life?
Yeah, I mean, it's everything. It's got to be the foundation. It absolutely has to be. Some people are like, "Oh, mindset's first." I'm like, "Nah, I think fitness is first. You got to take care of your physical body, and then the other stuff follows." So
do you think your fitness leads your mindset?
I think so, because if you're not physically healthy, if you're sick, if you're inflamed, if you're fat, if you're carrying around an extra 50 pounds, if you're eating junk food that is proven to negatively impact your cognitive function, How's your mindset going to be optimized? I don't think it is.
Well, the reason I say this is like my fitness leads first, and I feel like it just gives me so much not like confidence, but also mental clarity. Like without my fitness, I could not be sitting in front of you. I could not be leading organizations.
100%.
I love that.
And what a lot of people don't know until you get into it, if you're just used to eating junk food, they're like, okay, this is how I always feel. But you don't know that it actually impacts your mood. You're in a worse mood. You're more likely to be depressed. You can't focus. You don't have as much energy. You don't sleep as well. So that really has to be the foundation. So what I do is I lift 4 or 5 days a week. The thing that's helped me throughout my career, like I wrote the hard gainer column because I'm really a hard gainer. Like my wife's wrists are bigger than mine. I'm skinny fat. I'm more injury prone than Grant Hill and Allen Iverson combined. If the wind blows the wrong way, I'll get the flu, I get sick. So like I have everything working against me. So I had to work really hard to create all these strategies to combat that, right? So like I'm OCD about the way I train and the way I eat. And so that's allowed me to help people that deal with any of those things. And at 49, it's obviously worse than it was at 29, I got to be super conscious about the way I eat. I don't know, I could just kind of run through what I do real quick.
Yeah, fire away.
Like I like to be in bed at 10 every night. The first couple hours in the morning, just like you mentioned, I do, it's all me, it's focused on me and business stuff. So before 10, I will not take a call, will not take a meeting, I will not do a podcast, nothing. I got to get my shit done. And I think that's a really important thing. Some people have that framed incorrectly where they think like that's selfish, but you got to take care of yourself. Like if your health and your fitness and whatever means a lot to you, like if you're like, one of my daily non-negotiables is I have to read 10 pages. If you don't do that, you feel bummed out about yourself. You're not going to be as good here with me, with your wife, with your friend, whatever, like you have to take care of yourself. Like, it's a cliche, but when the plane's going to go down, you put your mask on first. So you got to do stuff. Too many people are not doing that. Like they think it's selfish or whatever. They have that Mr. Nice Guy syndrome, which I think is a book every man should read, honestly, even if you don't deal with it, No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah, read it 2 years ago.
Yeah. Game changer for a lot of people. So many of us deal with that. Even if you don't know, you're like, oh yeah, I do some of this stuff. So you got to take care of yourself first. So I get up. I used to have more of a longer morning routine, and then I think Craig kind of get in my head and stuff. And so now it's just I get up and I get right to work, and that's fucking it. Like I do a little bit of gratitude, but that's it. I meditate later in the day because I was meditating in the morning. I was like, I spring out of bed like a maniac. What am I going to calm down? Like I'm ready to go.
When do you train?
I train, so I do my morning stuff, I get my work done, and then I'll take a little break, and then I train every day around 1. I like midday because I like to get that chunk of work done. I like to eat 2 meals before I train, and then I like to have freedom to do some other stuff, spend time with the dogs, get a bunch of steps in, whatever, like all these things, and I just feel better. I don't feel good training first thing in the morning. I feel terrible. I always get injured. I'm weak. I can't get a pump. It's just like I hate it. You know what I mean? Yeah. So that's basically my thing. And then what I eat is I eat eggs and fruit, and then basically the rest of my meals are meat, fruit, and veggies. And then post-training, I'll have that with rice. And then if I'm looking a little skinny, I'll add more rice to more meals. But that's basically all I eat. Like it's just, I find that, just the habitual same shit over and over. Like I like that.
How long? Me too. I'm like literally a creature of habit. So like speaking the same language here.
Yeah.
How long have you trained this way? And the second part of the question, what are some kind of misconception lies in the fitness industry that we should avoid against? And I'm asking our avatar here, who has probably had some sort of recent touch with fitness, but probably needs to dial in their fitness more, especially on this journey. So I want to kind of give that some context of some of the things that you've been successful with, but also some things to like avoid. So how long have you been eating this way and training this way? And then what are some things that our audience should avoid?
I've experimented with every diet possible, like every single thing, you name it. I remember I was doing keto and then cyclic keto back in 1996 with like Dr. Mauro Di Pasquale and stuff like that. Fast, like you name it, any kind of low protein, high carb, low carb. So I've kind of settled on this, and I think it works well for the majority of people we work with. I mean, just basically, if it came out of a box or bag, don't eat it. What could your great-great-grandparents have eaten? So, meat, eggs, fish as your protein sources. Dairy, if you tolerate it, which I don't really that well, even though I just sucked down that thing. It was going to be. And then fruits, veggies, sweet potatoes, and then grains is like touch and go for a lot of people. It's like if you're lean enough, if you train hard enough, if you know that you can tolerate grains. Sure, I tend to introduce white rice just because the least inflammatory grain, before anything else. So I'm big on digestive health. And that's kind of the foundation. So I've been eating consistently the way I just mentioned to you for quite a few years now.
Like 10?
I have far fewer cheat meals the last 2 to 3 years than I used to. I used to eat like that, but I would have, like, living in LA, like I'm a foodie too, so I love eating. Like, growing up, my grandmother was always cooking, like stuffing like chicken parm and meatballs and pasta down my throat 24/7. So I used to have cheat meals like 3-4 times a week now.
Well, speaking of which, I mean, to that food, like your last name's Italian, but then also too, you just laid out Italian food, but then you said your background's from Scottish.
My mom's Scottish, so that's where the drinking comes from. My dad's Italian, so that's where the overeating comes from. So that side of the family overeats themselves to death. This side of the family drinks themselves to death. It's like, so yes, I got a lot. I got a lot to tame and keep under control. But no, that's how I've been eating, now for a while. And again, the cheat meals are really cut down just because you notice the impact, right? Like you have a cheat meal, the next day you got brain fog. Like, well, I'm in a bad mood today. I just had like gluten and sugar. I got a slice of pie and I'm in a bad mood, but that's how it impacts you, People don't notice that. You have less energy, you need like a pot of coffee a day after a cheat meal. I'm not gonna not do it. Because I think the importance of getting together with people you love and sharing things you love. Like my favorite thing in life is sharing my favorite things in life with people that I love, right? So my 4 favorite things are training, music, food, and the other one is, but you're not gonna share that, is sex. So but I wanna share.
We'll just keep that between you and the wife.
But I wanna share music, food, I wanna share those things with people I love. So if B's like, hey, we're gonna go to this place and we're gonna eat pasta, like, I don't give a fuck. Like my friend Dr. Chris Moore, I don't know if you know him, he said something one time. He said, it's better to eat a pizza with friends you love than a grilled chicken salad alone. I was like, yeah, I love that. Like there's something to that, I'm okay with the brain fog the next day for those memorable experiences. I'm not gonna do it all the time, but I'll do it once a week, know? And then the way I train is, what I think becomes more and more important, no matter what age you are, if you don't have good recovery ability, which I don't have, you don't have great genetics, and then you're super busy, and you're like type A and high, fucking hard charging, and like you already have high anxiety, high cortisol, high adrenaline, like I wake up like the Undertaker, I sit up, I'm ready to go. Like I don't even have light sensitivity, I rip open the blinds, I'm like, let's fucking go, So I'm going at a level 100 all the time. So I can't train in a way that causes excess amounts of fatigue, because I'm already fatiguing myself just redlining all day, you know what I mean? So I need to be sure that I manage fatigue in my workouts, right? I don't think a lot of people are conscious about. So I manage the amount of volume I do, the amount of reps I do, make sure I take longer rest periods, and then I listen to my body too. Like 10, 20 years ago, I tried to set a PR on everything every single day, but it's like, if I start doing this, I was like, oh, my shoulder doesn't feel good. Maybe I'll move to this exercise today. It's like I had in my mind I wanted to, do this amount of weight for 8. No, I'm not feeling so good. I'm gonna do 12 reps on this today, whatever. So I'm always listening to my body and just being smart about it, and then just managing that fatigue and kind of noticing when that central fatigue is getting too much, then when to back off, things like that.
What about additional health tips or hacks? I know I was sharing with you, like I'm a huge proponent for me of cold plunging, the cryotherapy is just like, not only from a physicality perspective, it just makes me feel better, especially after training hard, but also from the mental clarity, it just kind of changes my state, which Tony Robbins actually initially turned me on to this years ago. Do you do that, or is there any other kind of cutting edge, if you will, health hacks that really helped you? Yeah,
I personally love cold plunge. I love sauna. But what I start everyone with, because I think the most important thing is, like some guys will be like, oh, I'm cold plunging and I have these blinds and I have this light and I'm doing red light and blue light and this and that. I was like, bro, but you're eating like shit. Your sleep is terrible. Your stress is through the roof. You really think that wearing those glasses is doing anything? Like, let's worry about the big rocks first, and then the biggest rock is sleep. Even before training. If someone comes to me and they're like, I'm stressed out of my mind and sleep 4 hours, and I was like, well, in the program and the diet really doesn't matter. Let's get your sleep locked in. Then let's get your nutrition locked in. And then let's just add in a small amount of training, see how you recover from it, see how you tolerate it. But sleep's the most important thing. Like if you're not optimizing your sleep, your cognitive function, your immune function, your sexual function, nothing's gonna be optimized. You're not gonna lose fat, which a lot of people are like, what? Yeah, you're not gonna lose fat, you're not gonna build muscle, you're not gonna recover, you're not gonna get stronger. So we gotta optimize your sleep. So that's really what I prioritize more than anything else. And if you're doing that, and your training's, your nutrition's good, you're not overtraining, great, now let's get in a cold plunge. Let's do a sauna. Let's do whatever, like, but I want to I want to prioritize. And what can everyone do? Not everyone can cold plunge, not everyone can afford a sauna, but everyone can optimize their sleep. Everyone can get more steps, get outside more. Some people are like, oh, I can't. I was like, no, you can. Take your calls and go for a walk, whatever. Because and that improves your sleep. More steps improves your sleep. Being outside more improves your sleep. It just improves everything. Like, it's unnatural. People spend 22 hours a day inside. We evolved spending 8 hours a night in a cave and all the rest of the time outside. So it's a very unnatural life. So I like focusing on that stuff that anyone could do regardless of your schedule, your income level, your job. And then we could add in all the fancy stuff. Like, it was up to me, I'd have, $1 million worth of all that stuff in my house and do it all day, but let's work on the other stuff first.
I was gonna ask you, how do you optimize your sleep? You just laid out a few other strategies. Is there anything else that you missed in terms of that roll call?
Well, it starts first thing in the morning. So you gotta get out and get sunlight in your eyes. And ideally, I live in climates where you take your shirt off, so expose your skin to the sun when the sun comes up in the morning. So that sets your circadian rhythms. That's gonna improve your sleep, maybe more than anything else. And every time I tell people that, I'm like, what? And it works. So getting out, 20 minutes is better. If you can only do 10, that's fine. So doing that, and then if you're...
Like first thing in the morning.
First thing in the morning, yeah. And then if you're a type A type person, or if you have any kind of sleep problems, do not do any kind of intermittent fasting. Get up and eat immediately. That in itself can change and improve your sleep. Just because it skyrockets your cortisol and your adrenaline, and you already have high adrenaline and high cortisol. So we want to bring that down. And again, it'll set your circadian rhythms for the day. So the sun, the food, and so do not fast, do not have coffee before you eat. And ideally, you should wait about 90 minutes. I'm guilty, I don't always do it because sometimes I'm just like getting shit done. I'm like, fuck, whatever. But you should wait 90 minutes and you should have food before you have coffee. Some people thrive on intermittent fasting, but there has been a shift where I saw Dr. Peter Attia talking about a lot of people who were more into fasting were like, I just don't think it's worth the trade-off anymore. A lot of people were into it 2 to 3 years ago. I just, long-term, I don't think it's worth the trade-off. Like, you feel great because you're running on stress hormones and catecholamines and all this stuff, and then you're pissing clear every hour of the day. It's like, if your dog is pissing clear, you take him to the vet. So like, people wear it as a fitness people wear it as a badge of honor. I'm peeing clear. It's like, that's not good. Your pee should be pale yellow. Otherwise, you're really stressed the fuck out. So that's why whenever I have water, I always have element in it. Like, that's been a game changer for me, electrolytes. And just, I think years ago, people feared sodium. Sodium's like one of the greatest things it's like the greatest performance enhancer. I don't think unless you have like blood pressure issues or something, I don't think there's a limit. Like, your performance only gets better the more sodium you have. So I'll have like 3 packets of element a day, especially if you're in a hot climate, you're sweating a lot. And if you're just that type of person who's really stressed out, if your adrenals are really stressed out, which I just burn my adrenals out, you know what I mean? You probably do too.
Yeah, 100%.
Your adrenals need that sodium to regenerate. So I'm constantly taking element, and that has changed my health a lot. That's changed my sleep a lot. Like, I used to have more symptoms of that, like that high adrenaline, high cortisol, low body temperature. Like, I'd wake up freezing, my hands and feet were always freezing. Element's been a game changer for that.
Dude. On the same lines in terms of longevity and optimization would be impulse control. And it's funny, you talk about coming from, addictive, background, if you will, but also too, all this stuff that you're talking about, eating well and training well, you have to overcome the impulse control to, succumb to sugary foods or salty foods or, hey, I don't want to take it, I want to take it easy today. How do you cope with impulse control, and, what are some strategies that helped you?
Probably just looking at, okay, how has this served me in the past? And not well, so you don't want to keep repeating that same mistake over and over again. But, I'm hard-headed, I'm a knucklehead, so I got to learn lessons the hard way multiple times before they're fully ingrained. But then, you feel like shit or you look like shit long enough, you're like, okay, that becomes easier to say no to those things. And then how that impacts, like you said, your self-confidence, chips away your self-esteem. Like, if you've told everyone, all right, I'm not gonna have a cheat meal for 30 days, and then 7 days you have your cheat meal, maybe nobody knows, but so it's chipping away your self-esteem a little bit, So like, you start to know that, actually impulse control impacts my self-esteem, my confidence, and my ability to show up for people. And so like, I think it just becomes easier when you have that awareness, right? You start to recognize those things. And then what you said is, if you consider yourself a leader, not really a great look if you're just whacking down booze all the time and eating ho-hos and gabagool and whatnot, you know what I mean? So like, if you assume the role of a leader, And as I'm sure you would agree, like leadership is not an inherent quality you're born with. Like you choose, it's a choice, right? So you choose to be a leader. Yeah, it's a skill, it's a choice. You choose to be a leader. And then what I always tell people too is you choose to be the inspiration for everyone around you, because you're not going to meet a single human being, not The Rock, not Mick Jagger, nobody that doesn't have insecurity, unhappiness, something that they are struggling with, baggage from your childhood. Everyone's got stuff from those first 7 years. So everyone's insecure, everyone's struggling, everyone's unhappy about something, right? Everyone's fighting some demon, some battle. So if you choose to be the inspiration for everyone around you, then you're like, okay, that's a fucking heavy role, a heavy burden. That's what I've chosen to do that. Now, are you going to be infallible and never, drink or have a cheat meal? No. Like I had a cheat meal the other day. Like but like I kind of envision when I was first going on this journey, when I first got to LA, every day I would imagine, like I made, like music's my fucking life. So I made a morning playlist. So that's what I forgot to tell you about my morning is I press play on my morning playlist. It's called Dominate. And it's just like a bunch of songs that just get me in that headspace of like, I'm the world's greatest, I'm unstoppable. It's like old school hip hop and stuff like that. But I'm reprogramming my mind every single day. Because again, it's not something that ever becomes natural. It's like, you have to eat healthy every day or you get fat and sick. You have to train every day, you get small and weak. You have to reprogram your mind to believe in yourself. Like, I don't have that factory installed self-belief that I'm great. But it's like, you got to do that, like Muhammad Ali said. He said, I said I'm the greatest long before I was.
Yep.
So every morning I do that shit. I listen to these songs and I believe it. And I'm hearing, DMC say, I'm the king of rock, and LL say, this and that, and Special Ed say, I'm the magnificent. And I'm just reprogramming myself 365 days a year to believe that, and to leave the house believing that, and to make sure that my body language and my posture reflects that, and how I make people feel, does that reflect that? And so I'm choosing to be the inspiration for people around me. Now, do I always do that? Do I always inspire people? Would people tell you that I'm there? I don't know. And I'll tell you no, I'm not always perfect, right? But like, I try to live up to that, and I tell people, friends, family members, members of my coaching program, like, choose to be the inspiration for everyone around you, because everybody needs that, Dan Kennedy, who's a famous, marketing guy, said years ago, everyone's walking around with their umbilical cord out looking to plug it into somebody. Why not that be you? Again, everyone struggles. So fucking choose to step up and be the leader, be the inspiration for everyone around you. So, and then what does that look like? I don't know. You got to define what that looks like, right? Like I don't know. I can't tell you. For me, it's like, okay, you get up at the same time, you do the same things, you're reliable, you're consistent. People don't like inconsistency. It'd be like, Seinfeld comes on at 9 o'clock every Thursday on NBC. If it randomly started coming on Saturday mornings,
what the hell?
Yeah. So human beings are attracted to consistency, positivity, energy, whatever you choose to kind of, project and put out there. But if you choose to be the inspiration, it's a heavy title, and like that's a guiding light for me. Like, but sorry, I'm jumping all around.
That was good, man.
Once I get rolling,
let's go.
I play that morning mix, but I also was envisioning. I don't tend to do this as much anymore, but I would envision there was a documentary crew on me. My first year in LA, when you asked, like, was it hard? Was it uncomfortable? Yes, but I would imagine there was a film crew on me everywhere I went. So if I just run into you at a coffee shop, we never met, and we're talking in line, I was like, all right, I'm going to be the embodiment of how to win friends and influence people in this little interaction with Bryce here. I'm teaching people, like, I like to put a lot of pressure on myself, which sometimes ends up in you being like bummed out, and
In what way?
if I just feel like I didn't do as good a job, or I get to the end of the day and it's like, I could have done better.
You personally?
Yeah. But I like that though. Like, I'd rather be bummed out that I didn't do as great of a job than
complacent.
I drank all day and I was complacent and I fucking barely make any money or do anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Dude, man, we've been cut from the same cloth. I love this.
Yeah.
You've been gracious with your time. We're going to wind down here, but I have two last questions. And the first one is words of wisdom. So, you've had an incredibly gloried career in this fitness space. You've self-improved so much, and you continue to add so much value. For our audience who wants to kind of follow in that footprint, and they want to be a leader, they want to be consistent, they want to open a business, going to make a big impact on their community, but for whatever reason, there's that little inner voice, there's that little inner critic, letting them know that, hey, they're not good enough, or there's some sort of obstacle in the way. What is your parting piece of wisdom for that person?
One thing I would say is act your way into thinking differently. A lot of people will be like, oh, I got to read 10 more books and go to all these events and go to listen to 20 different podcasts, but like, right now, envision, even write down, you gotta be specific, write down in a notebook, what are the qualities of people that you like and admire and aspire to be like? Maybe write 5, maybe write 10. Like, okay, Bryce is super engaging and he's great with people and he's super present and he's a great listener. I want to be all those things. And this guy speaks really well on stage and this guy changes the energy of a room. Like, I think everyone should change the energy of a room. If you enter a room and you don't warm it up, you're fucked. You got work to do. Like, everyone should jump up and be excited to see you and give you a hug and daps. And if you walk in and no one notices you, dude, you got some work to do. Like, anyone can do that. So, like, when I say act your way into thinking differently, it's like, no, you don't need to read all these books and do all this work. Just do it now. Like, look at what Bryce does, mirror that. Like Tony Robbins calls it, you know what I'm thinking, neuro-linguistic programming, mirroring, something like that. Like, okay, I'm with Bryce. I see exactly what he does. I see how our president is. I see how he asks questions. I'm going to go do that right now in my next conversation. It's as simple as that. Yeah. Like, okay, I see this guy's got great posture. I see the way The Rock enters a room. I see the way this guy tells a story. Now, you might not be as good as it immediately, or like, oh, when that guy he does this and touches someone's arm, that's super cool. I'm going to do that right now with somebody else. And just always be doing that. Don't wait. Like, everyone's waiting for this perfect time. Like, if I just read 10 more books, I'll know how to do that. No, do it fucking now. Because there's no time. Like, you know, again, as you get older, your mortality becomes more, like we were even talking, it's kind of a grim topic. We were talking about this last night at dinner. Like, Bedros and I are both 49. We know plenty of people younger than us that have dropped dead in the last few years. Like, you're not promised anything. So, like, the worst thing is regret. That's my worst fear, is regret, not living up to my full potential, letting people down. I mean, I guess that's 3, but like, but if you're just staying complacent and not doing the shit, like to your original question, then you're doing all 3 of those things. You're gonna have regret, you're letting people down, you're letting yourself down, and you don't know when it's gonna all be over, so do the shit. Like, you know, I forget the cliche, but something about you're always gonna look back and regret the things you didn't do more than you did, you know. Yeah, totally. So taking risks, I think not taking risks is the bigger risk. I mean, I guess that's something that maybe came naturally to me, so maybe that was a gift too. Like, I've just always taken risks. I don't like any, you know, sure bet or anything like that. Like, oh, let's fucking risk it and do it.
Let's go.
It always works out. Like, you always think it's going to be worse than it is. It's always better. Like, sure, sometimes you'll crash, but you could pick yourself up by your bootstraps, and you have evidence. Like, a friend of mine was like, hey, I'm gonna leave this 7-figure job and go here, but he hemmed and hawed about it for 7 months, and I was like, dude, let's look at the last 42 years of your life. Have you ever ended up in a box on the street doing heroin? He's like, no. I was like, you've been fucking successful. Of course you're gonna be successful. And if it fails, you can go back to this, and you have all these other friends that are gonna help you. Worst case scenario is just envision it's 10 times worse in your head. You'll be fine. Like, it's never that much of a risk. And I know that everybody wants to you know, be a leader, like you talked about. They want to be the inspiration for people around them. They're just like, oh, I can't do it. That's fucking bullshit. You just got to do it. Like, that's what I think. That's what I would say is, do it.
Mic drop, baby. Get me fired up right now. You better be fired up back home. I love that, Jay. All right, my friend. Well, this has been awesome. The title of this podcast is the Fitness CEO Podcast. So, speaking of leadership and running organizations, from your lens, what does it mean to be a CEO?
I think it's just kind of the recurring theme of this is like you've chosen to put on that hat. Like, I'm the leader, I'm the inspiration. I got to hold myself to a higher standard. You mentioned that you couldn't ask someone to stop drinking if you didn't, right? So it's like you can't ask anyone to do what you're not doing, which in itself, again, I think is such a blessing for any human being to take on that role. Like that's why you've said it plenty of times over the last hour. Like, you like being the leader because it holds you to a higher standard. Yeah. So if you're the CEO, you're the leader, you have to do all the things. Bedros has talked about this a lot, like a few years ago. He's like, I wasn't a good leader, a good CEO, because I was doing this and I was taking the easy way out and I wasn't having hard conversations. So if you do all those things, man, it's, again, not 100% altruistic, because what it does for you and your life and your personal growth is exponential, and then it affects the relationships with everyone around you, it grows your business. So I just think it's, just to choose leadership is just such an amazing fucking thing. Very few people will do it. That's why you have to be the person that does it.
Boom, mic drop, my friend. Jay, if this is our audience first time connecting with you, where can they find you?
You can go to jay.fit, jay.fit, or I am on Instagram at Jason Ferruggia.
Well, before we wrap, I just wanted to take a second to thank you, not only for being the show, man, just to acknowledge you for the dude that you are, for being a fucking inspiration, for being a trailblazer, And then also being vulnerable, because I think that really connects with me. It's inspired me, and I know it's inspired our audience. So
thank you so
I'm going
much.
to acknowledge you for that.
Awesome. Appreciate it, man.
You got it, brother. Well, hey, friends, I know you got a ton of value from this episode. Assuming you did, just give this a like. And as always, remember, no one is coming to save you. You must save yourself, and the time is now. Thanks, and we'll see you in the next episode.